Hey, what's up, guys? It's Blackfire. I'm sure you've seen, at least somewhere on the internet, that there is a potential leak for the next Battlefield game. Battlefield 5 may be set during the World War I time frame. That is according to a Swiss game retailer who put up a Battlefield 5 description talking about combat in the First World War, and it was subsequently pulled down, so they might just be playing a trick on us. I don't know. But Battlefield is due for an announcement of a new game very, very soon. And World War I is often overlooked by video game developers. It's not as appealing as World War II to many players, and there are many reasons for that. But in my opinion, it doesn't mean that it can't work. And one of the big criticisms people have had was that, the combat is too slow. And while I talk about this, I'm going to have some gameplay footage from Battlefield Hardline in the background here, where I use nothing but a bolt-action rifle just to prove that it is both fun and effective. Now, World War II is ingrained in our popular culture. It's been immortalized in films like The Longest Day and television shows like Band of Brothers. Similarly, it's been a staple in video games like Battlefield 1942 and, of course, the original Call of Duty. It's presented as a mobile and fast-paced conflict. The invasion of Normandy, Battle of the Bulge, and Stalingrad are well known to most gamers, yet few know about the conflict that took place just some 20 years prior. The Great War, as it's been called, is largely forgotten by video games, and that can change. That should change. World War I took place between July 1914 and November 1918. Over 70 million people were mobilized for the conflict. 9 million combatants died, as did over 7 million civilians. Killing was, for the first time, conducted on an industrial level, a result of commanders failing to recognize the changes in tactics required by new technological developments. These technological developments became household names after World War II, but their lethal potential was realized during World War I. I am, of course, referring to weapons like the machine gun, the airplane, and the tank. Commanders during the Great War often scoffed at these new tools, and those in the trenches paid for it with their blood. By the time World War II rolled around, the lessons had been learned. World War I is about learning those lessons. As I mentioned, the recent news that Battlefield 5 may be potentially set in World War I was met with mixed feelings among gamers. Some were excited for a new conflict, others claimed it was too stationary to entertain. It's easy to classify World War I as stationary, but it would be doing a disservice to those who fought. The truth is, as always, more complex than what appears on the surface. World War I was very mobile in the early months, the Germans employing the von Schlieffen Plan and the French and British reeling from those attacks. Similarly, World War I was not only fought in mainland Europe. The conflict stretched to colonies in Africa and the Pacific. Many native peoples were enlisted to fight the battles of their colonial controllers, and there is great storytelling potential in such a situation. Great storytelling is what makes a truly great game. Gameplay mechanics are certainly part of the equation, but they are not what makes a game memorable. No one fondly remembers the control schemes of Mass Effect or Dragon Age, but they remember the characters and the journey they took with them. World War I is full of tremendous storytelling opportunity. For many, books like All Quiet on the Western Front, which chronicles a German soldier's World War I exploits, is required reading in school. It's an emotional roller coaster of literature filled with triumph, failure, humor, and madness. DICE and the Battlefield franchise have woven intricate and emotional stories in titles like Medal of Honor and the remarkably well-done yet overlooked Battlefield Hardline. And we have seen a couple successful World War I video games. The aptly named Toy Soldiers Tower Defense game was released back in 2010. While it didn't focus so much on storytelling, it still provided the player with the detached view of warfare and almost no accountability for the people they willingly sent to death. The futility and waste of trench warfare quickly becomes obvious after mowing down wave after wave of attackers, and the game did show other adversities faced by soldiers on the ground through its achievement system. Another game successful using the World War I concept is Valiant Hearts. In the game, people who had known each other before the war are thrust into conflict, and their stories are intertwined through a small dog. It's not a game about combat, but about survival and returning home to what matters most in life. The game will make you cry, and it should. Regardless of gameplay, a well-written battlefield game in World War I would be a tremendous hit. Gamers have grown tired with futuristic shooters, jetpacks, and wall running. Many long to return to a simpler time where coordination, tactics, and teamwork mattered more. World War I as a setting would provide that experience. It would also provide new weapons unfamiliar to players like the French Berthier rifle, the Shosho machine gun, which actually was not a terrible weapon in its original French caliber, and the Mauser C96 pistol. On top of this, players could return to heavy vehicles, something sorely missed in Battlefield Hardline. World War I saw the introduction of tanks like the British Mark series of lozenge tanks, the French Renault, and the German A7V. Air-to-air combat has become a staple of the Battlefield franchise as well, and players could also take to the air in some of the most iconic airplanes to grace the skies, like the Sopwith Camel, German Albatross, and the Fokker DR-1 triplane, made famous by the Red Baron. A Battlefield game set in World War I would also give us the opportunity to meet important historical figures from that time. Other video games have successfully done this, such as Call of Duty Black Ops, and films do this regularly. For example, the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles explores Indy's exploits during World War I with the Belgian Army, where he meets all manner of historical figures from humanitarian Albert Schweitzer to German General Paul von Lettow-Vorbeck. It's a great series starring Sean Patrick Flannery of Boondock Saints fame. It's not great because of the acting, but because of the writing. I have always maintained that a good war film or game should never glorify war, but shed light on its futility, horror, and true price. Before World War I, it was a time of naivety and romance. Going to war was viewed as an honor and chivalrous. When many soldiers reached the front lines, they were unable to see how such notions could coexist with the unmitigated slaughter in the trenches. Many suffered from shell shock. Many were maimed. Many never returned from the trenches, and those who did left a part of themselves there. The Great War also touched those in non-combat roles. Nurses and doctors had to contend with a never-ending stream of casualties coming back from the front. And for what reason was all this done? Every man, woman, and child had to find the answer for themselves. Some attribute it to the folly of man's indifference to one another. Others blame the greedy monarchs and heads of state. At least one, Adolf Hitler, blamed the Jews. It was supposed to be the war to end all wars, yet even more would die less than 20 years later. The setting is ripe for the most powerful storytelling this generation of gaming has ever seen. It just needs the right approach to reach it. Battlefield 5, or Battlefield 1914, that could be the game. It should be that game. If you like this video, share, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.